So DJ Lagway is hitting the portal. A lot of Gator fans are going to be on portal watch, and I don't think with hopefulness. It's a catch-22 here because we probably don't get DJ Lagway in Florida without Billy Napier. And upon Billy leaving, we lose Lagway. Upon Billy being at the University of Florida, we lost Lagway anyways. I think what we saw from him in his freshman year was more a sign of who he naturally is. And I think what we saw from him in his sophomore year is more of a sign of how the Gators coached him up, how he responded to the coaching. I think it was probably time for him to leave, but not really when you look at it, because even though he had a terrible sophomore season, you kind of have this idea that these players feel they owe something to the university and to those fans to show that they have what it takes to do better. But the last 4 Heisman winners have all been transfer quarterbacks. And so there is a new trend developing that, the grass is greener elsewhere. I don't personally always feel like that's the case. I feel like the grass is greener where the coaches are doing the watering and the plucking and, the pulling out of weeds and so on and so forth. He'll probably end up going to one of these schools in Texas, a Baylor or Texas Tech. Honestly, I feel like he'll go to Texas Tech because he knows that they're spending money on the team in ways that is actually helping them succeed. Plus, the Big 12 is not going to be nowhere near as challenging. Texas Tech, the toughest team Texas Tech probably played all season was BYU, and they spanked them. I know they lost to somebody else. I forget who Arizona State. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Arizona State. His decision is going to say a lot about who he is and what he's thinking and how he sees the landscape of college football. Have any of you who are watching this seen the SEC football Any Given Saturday documentary on Netflix? It's pretty interesting. It's about last season, and it's a closer look into the programs of the SEC, not just the University of Florida. But I think on episode 2 in particular, I've only gotten to episode 3. I think I'm just finished episode 3. Episode 2 in particular, they highlight the Gators and the tumultuous 3rd season of the Billy Napier era. And I believe that in that documentary, you can see more than what's being said and put on screen. You can see the fragility of this young man when he first gets to the University of Florida. You can hear it in his voice. He's not that confident. He was very confident in high school, but sometimes it's pretty interesting how your success can also put you in a bind, so to speak. It can also make you a bit, tentative, so to speak, because your success leads people to believing what they want to see in you. And at the University of Florida, everybody has been wanting to see a savior come in. When Tim Tebow came through, he was a savior quarterback. He even walked through and was constantly praying. It was John 3:16, and this is a savior quarterback. He saved that program. All right. When Warfel was there, savior quarterback. Granted, he had the weapons on the outside. He had Fred Taylor, but he was absolutely that type of quarterback that made the fans believe, made the coach believe, made the Heisman voters believe. And instead of us having that type of quarterback, we had this young, fragile man who just became this young man, very fragile, who just became the Gatorade Player of the Year. It comes into the University of Florida with all this hype. Graham Mertz gets hurt in the first game of the season. Then he gets hurt against Tennessee. And now we're rocking with Lagway, basically for the rest of the season. And I remember in the documentary, after Lagway played against, I think it was Old Dominion, and it's crazy game, crazy first game for him, crazy first start, and he had like 300 plus yards, maybe 400 if I'm not tripping, maybe. I don't remember how many yards, but it was a crazy game. He had a really good game or whatever, and he goes into the locker room, and the guys on the team are like at his locker, praising him as if he's arrived. This has been an experience. I hate that it ends this way. I do wish him success. I do. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I want him to fail. I think he's extremely talented. I think the right coach is out there for him. It's a shame what happens when you don't have the right coach and when you aren't investing in your program the right way. There's no reason for anybody out there, none at all, to feel like John Summerall is genuinely going to be successful at the University of Florida when he's only done it at Troy and at Tulane. Even at Tulane, he had Darian Mensah, who just successfully helped Duke win the ACC championship, and Darian Mensah got away. I guess they couldn't retain him at Tulane. Maybe it was money. Maybe Darian left to be at a real P4 program. But there are guys out there. There are quarterbacks out there. I do believe that the University of Florida can find a guy. It's just got to be the right guy, and that guy's just got to really work with the coaching staff that we have there now. I've got my eye set on Sam Levitt. He's a guy who can run. He's a guy who's got real pocket mobility. He's a much better pocket wizard, I would say, than Lagway is. And that might work best for the coaching staff that Summerall has been putting together over there. They seem like a much grittier coaching staff than what I genuinely believe the University of Florida needed to retain a DJ Lagway and needed to rebuild a DJ Lagway. There are definitely coaches out there who I believe are going to put Lagway in the right system. One thing I heard him say on the documentary that really spoke to me, and I don't think he meant to say it like this, but he said something along the lines of like, yeah, in high school, I was the star and everybody depended on me, and it's really good to have a team where, they're going to make plays too. And he said that, I believe, after he had just threw an interception in, I forget which game it was, but he threw an interception in a game, and it might have been against Kentucky or LSU. I forget who it was against, but he throws an interception, and the Gators essentially made a stop. I personally don't have a favorite NFL team anymore because when I was younger, it was easy to have one, and then I'd get older, and then I would see how I like this team, but I actually like these players, and management is in charge, and management is getting rid of the guys that I like. Management is getting rid of Brett Favre. Management has sold the Seattle Supersonics. It's very difficult for me to have a professional sports team. So for me, and if you track my videos, you'll see the Florida Gators have always been my favorite team because college was a more pure watch as a fan. But I can now say that the portal is creating a chaotic environment that I don't understand, and it's starting to make it harder for me to genuinely enjoy the sport. Or I should say genuinely enjoy a team, because it's no longer about these guys coming in and getting better. It's no longer about Lagway coming in and getting better in his junior year and senior year. No, now it's, I got to go get better coaches because my athletic director doesn't know how to get me one. So I'm torn because in some ways, I don't fucking blame him. But as a fan of this program, I also want him to stay. I want to see him improve. I want to see him become who we all believed he could be. But now, unfortunately, we're going to be stuck watching him try and become that somewhere else. When I was in college, you couldn't transfer and go to another school and play. Not that first season, at least. And now, because of the portal, things have changed so much. You got the portal, you got NIL, but now because of the portal, guys can leave and they can already be pronounced the starter. A fourth and goal stop on defense and got him the ball back. And he was just saying how much he appreciates that the Gators have this defense that can make plays too. And so it was kind of like a statement that kind of bites at his high school team, maybe not necessarily being the type of team that made those plays, and he made all the plays. So with that said, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go somewhere where everything is set up already. Everything's in place already. There's a great defense over there, great offense, and he gets to just be dropped in and just be DJ Lagway, and he doesn't have to worry about this, that, or the third. Because of that, I'm going to say it's going to probably be Texas Tech, maybe Miami. But the fact that Miami plays against the Gators, I don't know if they're playing against the Gators next season, but because of the fact that Miami plays against the Gators, I just feel like that would just be gross to then go there and then come play against us. And I think the game would be at the Swamp. So that would be insane. That would just be a really weird look. Yeah, it's not the news I wanted to see, but I was prepared for it. There was already a report from, I forget who, No 3 Sports. Sometimes people try to use the same names or close to the same names as other companies. And so, I know there's an On 3, but then I think this one was No 3 or something like that, or Number 3 or some shit like that. But they reported this like a week ago. And, I did some research to see if it was true, but there was nothing, verifying it. But that alone kind of prepared me for this. But this is what you get. This is what bad coaching does. Great coaching retains players. At the University of Georgia, guys don't really leave like that. And when they do, Georgia might sue you. Georgia is putting like these guardrails in place to protect their program and to protect the vision of their program long term. At the University of Florida, we're just giving guys opportunities, but we're not giving them good coaching. We're not giving them the best support, which to me is an indictment on Scott Strickland. This next season right here for the University of Florida, I'm going to more so just be watching from the perspective of, yes, still a fan, but more so the perspective of somebody who has to detach emotionally quite a bit, because one thing I don't like to see is bad management. I love watching great players play. I love the game of football. But when the game of football is tied to management, general management, athletic directors, owners, coaches, all of a sudden the game is no longer just the game that you used to play when it was, you and your friends playing backyard football and those physical moments that attach you to the sport, that you remember being a part of the sport. Now it's something different. Now it becomes something where some athletic director up high is making the decision for your football team when his job is to make a decision for all of the sports at the university. And his choices seem to kind of always be the cheap way out. Finding a G5 coach, who was successful on that level doesn't mean they're going to be successful on the next level. And I feel like aiming for those coaches is really a cop-out for being able to say, look at this guy's resume. Look what he's done. Look how much he's accomplished at Troy and at Tulane, at Louisiana Lafayette. Look at what they did over there. Where this is the SEC. The SEC, I said it in previous videos. Week 1, we got Tennessee. And then week 2, we got Oklahoma. And then week 3, we got Alabama. And then week 4, we got Georgia. And then week 5, we got Vanderbilt. That's the game you think you can rest and chill. No, not no more. Week 6, we got Kentucky. They just beat the shit out of us. Week 7, we got Missouri. Week 8, we got South Carolina. So I don't see the University of Florida trending upwards. I've been seeing a lot of people posting about these great coaching hires that John Summerall is making. I'm not geeked up about none of this. None of these coaches excite me. Not one of them. I don't see why they would or why they should. I think people who are getting excited are more so people who have it in them to get excited. But you can't genuinely sit here and say John Summerall is going to come and turn this program around. At the most, in my opinion, the best Florida can hope for is to retain some of their best players moving forward and to have a record somewhere around what Missouri had. To be the kind of team that beats the bad teams, becomes bowl eligible fairly fast enough, and maybe ends the season 8-4, 7-5, and makes you say, all right, it was better. Yeah, it was better. Let's see how well we can recruit. And we did get some guys, some studs in, for signing day. But I do think that the University of Florida is cooked for now. I think DJ Lagway's junior season needed to be that year where he just cleans everything up and shows people that second year and that first year was just a lot for him, and he's growing and he's developing. It's unfortunate that he's going to go and grow and develop somewhere else. But this is what bad coaching does. This is the result of bad coaching. This is the result of bad management. This is the result of a bad athletic director. This is that. This is plain and simple. It's not that difficult to really make sense of this. And it sucks. It sucks. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening, what decision DJ makes, and I'll follow up on it. I just hate the fact that as Gator fans are on Portal Watch, we're not doing it with hopefulness. We're doing it with a sense of anxiousness, anxiety. We're going to be sitting here like, who's next? Is Baugh about to leave? Is Dallas Wilson going? Is Trey Wilson going? I felt like Dallas Wilson purposely, I could be wrong, but I felt like he purposely stayed on the injured reserve list because he didn't want to waste a year on this awful team that started off the year losing to USF and losing to I've already blocked this shit out of my mind. Man, it's very yeah. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Guys, if you got to this part of the video, I appreciate you. My name is Dan Augustin. This is Multi-AF.